Good morning everyone. In this video I'm going to be analysing the live price action for EU and DXY to see what opportunities may be available for today. You're going to see my strategy and my analysis, so if you're interested in those then please stick around. So of course, starting on the daily, EU on the top, DXY on the bottom. So what's the daily picture showing us? Again yesterday, another bearish day. We've came down towards this POI that I pointed out in my previous video, and we have just spiked into it, partially mitigating it. So at the moment, price is rejecting that area. You can see the candle has gone back up towards the open. And on DXY, we also obviously had a bullish day yesterday, and today we have also spiked up into this sort of imbalance area here. We obviously have a gap in price above, which is another imbalance, but we have also gone into this imbalance here, I guess. So the previous daily high and previous daily low on EU has also been mitigated. It's been swept or broken at its current time. And of course, the overall picture is we're bearish. This is our bearish daily leg. So it'll be interesting to see what price does here on the daily now we are into this area. So let's go down to the 4 hour and see what that looks like. So zoomed in on the 4 hour here, of course, we still have our bearish leg. We have closed below this previous low of Friday, though we have come into this POI obviously from the daily. Price appears to kind of be decelerating. If we just look at these candles and the sizes of them, obviously in comparison to last week, there's much more deceleration. So although we are still closing out bearish on the daily, there's a bit of a lack of momentum here. So we could be finding some sort of support possibly. So I'm just reading that from the candles that price action is slowing down, which is kind of predictable after such large moves in the previous week anyway. Same thing's happening on DXY, we can see here, but we are continuing to make lower lows. But I would just count this entire move here as one bearish leg. So we've taken the previous weekly low, sell side liquidity has been mitigated, we're in the POI, and we have our 4 hour POI here with imbalances above. So we haven't been leaving behind imbalances in this area here. It's all properly mitigated by the looks of it. So the buy side imbalance attraction is still above here. If price does begin to pull back, we shouldn't see too much resistance, at least on the higher time frame within this area. If that happens, inversely on DXY, it's still the same. We have the same POI here as we do above here. So this is just the first major POI with an order block that I see, which is why I've drawn that out on the 4 hour. We're still bearish. We've closed out previous 4 hour as like a low test doji. And at the moment here, we're forming a doji, but we're about an hour and a half away from that close anyway. So not much again, obviously, to show on the 4 hour. We just have our 4 hour bearish leg, and just from analyzing the candles, we are possibly decelerating at this area with this POI now. So let's jump on to the 1 hour and see if that shows us anything different. So again, zoomed in on the 1 hour, we can see that there is potentially this new 1 hour bearish leg, right, from this high to this low. Overnight into today, we did make a lower low after sweeping some sort of internal buy side liquidity. We have eventually just broken down and made a new low. However, I don't need to concentrate on the leg. We're obviously in a discount. We've obviously met a higher time frame POI, and now today you can see we've swept Asia lows. We closed out that 1 hour candle as a rejection of this area. So we've taken sell side liquidity below Asia, and we are within a daily high time frame POI. We did the same on DXY. We swept the Asia buy side liquidity and closed within that area, right, as a sort of rejection. Immediately above price on EU, we have the imbalance and order block there, which I pointed out. Price has spiked up into that, mitigating more buy side liquidity within the imbalance and taken some internal buy side liquidity here. And you can see that's had some sort of reaction, and price looks to be trying to continue bearish. We have the same POI here on DXY. The reason why I drew out this POI, even though we're in a discount here, is just because it's an obvious level with an order block and imbalance that we may continue from. Like yesterday, you know, the shallow pullback sometimes you get during trends. We had this shallow pullback into an imbalance here on the 1 hour and just continue bearish the entire day. We may have another shallow pullback around this area. If you look, there's only one more imbalance above that price could possibly go to within this whole zone here on the 1 hour. So I would just want to observe price action in this area or avoid this area if I was going longs, maybe to take profit there. So at the moment, I want to see more from price. It's a bit more trickier when you're in this sell side liquidity POI here. We've swept sell side liquidity. This is a daily POI as well. There'll be all sorts of 4 hour and 1 hour POIs, most likely within that. But then we have a POI above us, and price is obviously in a bearish trend. So I want to see more order flow and more with price before I'm really confident in entering a trade in any direction, even though it's favorable, obviously going with the trend. So even though that's more favorable, we have our negatives here of going short, obviously, because we've taken sell side liquidity and, you know, we're in a discount and there's this daily POI here. So I'd like to see something very concrete on the lower time frames. In saying that, let's go down to the M15 and see what opportunities we may see today. So as you can see, this is that high area I was talking about, where we've also made a higher low here on DXY, which on the lower time frame at least is showing some sort of strength. It may not last. I'm not going to read into it too much. We do have the POI above still to attract price, so eventually DXY may just take this low and go into this 1 hour POI anyway. But if it doesn't, and we do see a further breakdown, then obviously this becomes a liquidity sweep, right? Internally, we would have taken some sort of buy side liquidity, and if price were to break down, making a new lower low, then of course things look a bit different, and we can start seeing further bearish order flow potentially from this area. Okay, so that's where we could see some sort of short potential from, if price isn't going to come up into this 1 hour POI. Obviously the negative of if you were to take this trade would be that we would have this 1 hour POI above, we're in a discount, and we have this order block here. But at least order flow has shown you some sort of direction here, and we would have possible inducement during the pullback, possible POI here to go short from, and we could set the order above the highs here with their sell above the highs, and, you know, aim for wherever you want to aim for. So an order could look something like that with our breaker structure of that low, because this POI may actually need to be filled on the high time frame before we see any type of reversal, if we're going to see one. So the trend is still on side. We'd still have our buy side liquidity swept, we'd have a breaker structure, and we'd have our good pullback to trade from. Of course, this is the M15, so the stop's a lot bigger than usual, but a valid trade is a valid trade. Okay, so that could be a possible shorting opportunity if price was to continue going short from this discount. Preferably, we'd want to see it up in this area, right? This would be a great inducement, because this is also a 15-minute order block up here. Now, the reason, again, why I wouldn't just set an order here, even though it may work out, is just because in order for us to continue lower, we may need to sweep this area. It's not all the time that the order block, even though it's a high time frame order block, is just going to be respected by price and break down. Now it might, because this is a decent pullback. We have our inducement here, we have our order block here, and this is also the origin of that breakdown. Okay, so we may see shorts happen from this area. Preferably though, I would want to see price come up into this area again, and then on the lower time frame see some sort of breakdown. It might sweep internally if it doesn't sweep these highs, and then we get that breakdown, and then we get the pullback to our area to go short from. So I hope that's clear there. We can have our internal buy side liquidity sweep. We would have our break of structure around this area. Price would look something like this, right? It's not a guarantee that it's going to happen in this exact way. The structure may form on the way up. We would get some sort of possible inducement here in this area, and we would have our order block and imbalance here to go short from. Stops just above the high, and we can target the lows to continue with the trend or whatever you feel comfortable with. So that would be my strategy. That would be how it looks. Of course, if price was to just take those highs, it's the same thing. Then our buy side liquidity would now be taken from up here, and that would be totally fine with me, as long as we get that breakdown and we've liquidated some buy side liquidity. Of course, there was an imbalance above on a higher time frame, so price could just go up into that, do what it needs to do, and then break down. Right, so I'm looking for confident, high quality trading. So the reason why I want this area to hold is because rather than, you could just risk the short from this area and then you'd have to enter again if this happens. But I would just rather wait for the order flow. Once we come into this area, if we respect it and then break down, then cool, I'll get in on the continuation. So that is fine with me. So let me remove all this and we can discuss some longs. So it's really difficult for me at the moment to see long opportunities. Even though we are in this POI, we do not have bullish structure just yet at all, even on this M15. So preferably I want to see the M15 switch. I need to see the M15 continue on from around this area here to then go on and start making new highs, right? I'm going to need to see it do some stuff like this and be convincing to close out above these, and then maybe then we can see our pullbacks to some sort of area down here to go long from. You would have to see something like this. It's even hard for me to draw out and annotate. You'll know when you see it, of course, but we definitely need order flow to come in, preferably a shift in a 1 hour structure. If this is a 1 hour high here, you'd want a 1 hour to close above it and then start pulling back to, maybe if this is a 1 hour and 15-minute POI, then we would have our inducement somewhere during the pullback. We'd have this here. We've already swept sell side liquidity down here. Maybe we'll sweep it again, I don't know, but we've got a daily order block and imbalance here, and then we're going to want a complete switch in order flow for us to feel confident getting into any longs from this discount. So that's how I feel about it. That's my personal preference. I want to see us really switch that order flow, especially on the M15, to feel like we're going to have some sort of meaningful pullback into a premium area. So I hope that was clear. I hope you gained value from that. Any questions, let me know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.